I understand that one of the points of focus this morning is going to be the national anthem, which is more like a prayer of this country. It has a lot ingrained in it. So maybe we'll give you an opportunity to just set up a panel, and we'll come back to you shortly and look at what is going on. But for now, in studio joining me is John Kagushia, who is a governance expert, but also a member of the National Prayer Breakfast and has been for a while. Thank you for joining us this morning, John. And just looking at the National Prayer Breakfast, this is the 15th that we are having. And as a member, maybe let's start with the objective. What is really meant to be the objective of this National Prayer Breakfast?
Yeah, probably. Let me say, National Prayer Breakfast actually started in 1953 in the United States of America, in a meeting that would be a meeting that was to be convened by a young man by the name Billy Graham at that time. And one of the things that he intended to do is to bring the ruling class, that is a political class, to bring the business community and the elite, private sector and all that, the elite in that country. He wanted to bring them together so that they can have a moment of self-examination, they can have reflection, and they can also be able to network as they pray for their nation. And this quickly spread into Canada and also into European countries. And thereafter, we as a country, Kenya, we also borrowed the same idea. And by the way, we have also taken the format that is used in America. And Prayer Breakfast has been here in Kenya now for 15 years. And it has also been led by mainly the parliament. In the parliament that we had from 2002 to 2007, we had Joe Nyaga, who was a chairman. And 2008, coming to all the way to 2013, we had, I think, Gideon Dambuki, who was a chairman. Right now, we have Captain Clement Wambogo, who chairs that particular prayer breakfast. And I would also want to point out that this time round, especially from 2013 all the way now to 2017, the president has attended all the sessions of prayer breakfast. Actually, he has been one of the key guests. And the prayer breakfast also has a visiting guest every year. It also has a theme every year. Like if you look at 2014, the theme was around doing things right, and doing the right things and doing them in the right way. Then going to 2015, it was about self-examination. Going to 2016, it was about issues of trust and also staying steadfast against issues of terrorism, graft, and any other form of corruption and fraud. And of course, this year now, we have the issue of the national anthem as one of the guiding themes, so that we can see how then it can help us. Now, this particular version of prayer breakfast this year is very important because it comes just a few months away from the general election. And of course, one of the things then that will be required to be looking at is the issues of peaceful coexistence, is looking at the issue of how can we look at the national anthem so that it can build a harmonious coexistence, even as we are engaging in political rhetoric in such a year when we are doing politics and we are doing campaigns to have a general election just in about 70 days to come. So one of the theme, Mike, is to ensure that people are able to reflect, especially the top class. They are able to reflect, they're able to look inwards. As a country, we are able to come together, all of us, the opposition, the government, private sector, and all the other, so to say, the elites in the society, they're able to come together and pray for the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
And looking at those objectives and the fact that it has been going on year after year, and like you've rightly put it, there's always a theme that they have. Would you say as a member, those themes have been followed through? Because when we look at, I think you mentioned one of the themes that we have had is self-examination.
Indeed.
Does it, provoke especially like those in authority to self-examine and even to ask themselves the questions that they need to ask? I think it was last year that was self-examination.
That was in 2015, the issue of self-examination. And when the political class seems seems to set the agenda for an event like this one, or for the nation. Normally what would happen is that even the other citizens kind of get into the same mood. So it is an issue of having the political class being able to look inwards, and also other citizens doing the same. Now, what I would want to say is that probably sometimes one may look at the prayer breakfast or the national prayer breakfast and look at it vis-a-vis the kind of politics that we engage in the country, especially which are so much based on ethnicity. And then one would wonder, is there hope even when we are having this kind of prayer breakfast? Do we really then do self-examination? I can say that is one of the areas probably where we need to delve more into. But again, I would want to point out a few things. I joined prayer breakfast in 2006, and this is when I was the president of the student union at Kenyatta University. And I have always upheld Christian values in my life, and I was invited based on that, and I was leading another body which we would call the National Student Fellowship, National Student Leaders Fellowship, and that's how I got into this prayer breakfast. And I would want to say that the prayer breakfast is not just about the parliamentarians. They are the ones who organize. And by the way, also, the National Prayer Breakfast is also financed by the parliament and parliamentarians.
Correct.
But not from public coffers. It is privately financed. When I joined the National Prayer Breakfast, we came as student leaders. And in the sidelines of the National Prayer Breakfast, you have so many other meetings that go on, like the National Student Leaders Fellowship. Then you'd also have also other upcoming young leaders. Like now, as we are having this one, there's something we call the AYLF. This is African Youth Leadership Forum. This is bringing together East African young leaders. And I think from the day before yesterday, they've been at Brackenhurst. They will attend today, and they will continue with the meeting again for another 2 days. And all this is to ensure that there is a modeling of young people, and ensuring that young people who are coming up also do have proper skills and values that can help us as a society and as a country to entrench issues of good value systems in our governance. And this, to me, has been one of the fundamental issues that has really kept me focused on issues of integrity and good values in leadership. And indeed, where I have led, that is one of the things that always I have in my mind. And I have signed a declaration to uphold leadership with value and with integrity. And I have always pursued those values. So, using my example, then I would want to believe that we do have many other young leaders also who have been able to shape their perception and their view about governance and leadership in that line. However, the political class does not seem to probably resonate so fast and so deeply with this kind of issues as we would want. Because if, for example, we were to if we were to embrace exactly what we have been discussing in the National Prayer Breakfast, maybe we should see less corruption in the country. Maybe we should also see less ethnicity.
And you see, that now brings the notion that it is more or less an exercise in futility. It's like a waste of time and money, as much as it's good to know that it's not from the coffers, it's the parliamentarians that put it together. But one would ask, is the objective obtained? Is there anything that comes out of the prayer breakfast?
I know quite a number of young leaders today, and by the way, there are quite a number of them who are also going to parliament, and I expect a difference. And some of us have also been have been shaped, their values have been shaped by this National Prayer Breakfast. And so I cannot say it's an exercise in futility, because, as I'm saying, it's not just about the parliamentarians as we see them, or the politicians.
There's more that happens.
It also brings more, and there's a bit of a mentorship also for young people. And we have many leaders who actually come from across the globe. Like today, you'll have a lot of people coming from all over to come and stay on, even after the session, which is going to be televised here. There are so many other meetings in the sidelines. There are women caucuses which will be meeting to reflect on how leadership should be for women of integrity. And so it cannot be an exercise in futility, because there's so much which is also happening in other
areas and
quarters. Yeah, but again, as I say, we need to see more hopefully, also on how we lead this country, especially being a country that believes in prayers, a country that would congregate together to do a national prayer breakfast meeting. And of course, this happens also in Uganda, it happens in Tanzania. We would expect that as a country then, we are able to reflect and seriously embrace the ideals and the values that we preach on such a day.
Okay, and now let's look at the theme for this year, the national anthem, which, by the way, is a prayer.
It's true.
And I think it was during one of the Olympics, it actually was trending at some point as one of the most beautiful national anthems that, countries have had. So Kenyans have a reason to, thump their chest and say, hey, we have a very good national anthem. But away from just being a good song with good words, possibly what we should glean out of it and, moving forward, what it reminds us as a country.
Yeah, we have a very good national anthem. In fact, when it is being played, even when we are having the Olympic winners, it comes out as one of the best. Even the tune itself is very appealing. And if you look at the wordings, they are also very good. I remember one person listening to the song being played, then after that another national anthem was being played, and they commented and said that other national anthem looks like a cartoon song compared to our Kenyan national anthem. And this national anthem has, has a lot of value. If you look at the wordings, they are so deep. If we all sang that song and meant it, if we all concentrated and really reflected on the wordings of our national anthem, for sure as a country, probably even when we want to engage in things that are not appealing to this nation, then we would probably have to think twice. Yeah, but again, Mike, do we always do that? And it's a time today I would wish all of us, including the politicians, including our viewers, including ourselves, including the media fraternity, business community, I mean, everyone, is a time that we really need to ask ourselves, what really is the meaning of our national anthem? What really was in the mind of the composers of the national anthem? And then when we ask ourselves those questions, then we'll probably be able now to embrace those words more and do the right things. And I would want to quote the Bible. Today is a national prayer breakfast. If you look at 2 Chronicles, chapter 7, verses 14.
If my people
who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, turn their face again.
Turn from their wicked ways.
Yeah, turn their face again. I mean, turn their ways from wicked ways. Then I will listen to them. I will hear them. I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. That really gives us a very good basis of connecting together with our national anthem, love, peace, and unity. Yeah, God of all our creation. Because if you look at our national anthem, it brings God so much to be the center of this nation. And of course, we have said many times in the past, Kenya is an 80% Christian nation. And of course, even the Muslims that are in this country also do believe in certain values. So if all of us then were to believe in or were to exercise and practice what we read in the Bible, what we see in our national anthem, then this country should be different. Yeah, so we are not a secular nation per se. We are as much as anyway constitutionally probably
calls us a secular station.
We will be secular
nation,
but we are also a very religious nation. If you were to look at it strictly speaking, and probably one of the things that we'll also be looking at this year is also pursuing peace. Again, if you look at the Proverbs 7:14, again, what does it say? It says that turn away from evil, do good, and seek peace and pursue it. So as a country, then probably we also need to do. I think today I'm preaching, Mike.
I was just about to say that this has turned out to be a sermon. But anyway, it's in line with the National Prayer Breakfast Day. And in case you're joining us now, of course, we are highlighting and talking about the National Prayer Breakfast Day. And this year, the theme is based on the national anthem, which indeed is a prayer on its own. And of course, what John is saying here is that if we as Kenyans focused on that prayer and did as the prayer or the national anthem anthem says, then definitely we would have a more peaceful nation and, of course, be at a better position. And as we are continuing to wait for them to get themselves ready at the National Prayer Breakfast today at Safari Park, we do know that the president is to grace the occasion. But moving away now from just the national anthem and the fact that leaders are coming together, one of the things that we have noticed with previous National Prayer Breakfast days, as much as it's supposed to bring the whole political class, both the government and the opposition together, that doesn't seem to work out very well. Although we do have some, opposition leaders coming in. I think last year it was Jacoyo Medio who basically led one of the songs, or was it one of the prayers?
Yeah, I think last year we held the prayer breakfast when I think we also had a bit of tension and anxiety. I think based mainly on the issues of IBC commissioners and all that. But Jacoyo Medio was there. He led a prayer, and he seemed very easy, actually. And in the past, we have seen the government, especially the top level of government, being very, very much involved. During the Kibaki's time, he would attend quite a number of them, but he did not attend all of them. At some point, Mudi Awori would attend would represent him. And then Kalonzo Musyoka has been very consistent in the National Prayer Breakfast. This time round, we have also seen the president and the deputy. I don't think they have missed any session. Actually, this is the fifth one they are hosting, and they have always been there, and they have held hands together with the nation. I think the person whom I do not remember spotting would be Raila Odinga. I don't know whether I have spotted him in any of the National Prayer Breakfast, but his people are always there. Yeah, we have very good representation. Last time I looked at the choir, and it was very interesting. Led by Babayao.
Ferdinand Waitito.
Yeah, Ferdinand Waitito, he was there.
And of course, I think one of the things that also comes out of those prayer breakfasts is a sense of humor and bringing people together. But more importantly, if this would now translate to having a more cohesive nation, as opposed to just coming together on a national prayer breakfast, then after that, everybody goes out and spews, volatile, statements.
Yeah, actually, in fact, just to point out again in the choir, I saw Chris Wamalwa. He was very active in that choir last time. We also had Zipporah Kitoni. We had also people like Isaac Mwaura. I mean, all these guys were there in the Power Breakfast choir last time. We'll probably be hoping to see again what happens today. Right. Yeah, but I would want to urge politicians for sure. We need to be very serious about some of the things that we do, especially this prayer breakfast. It would be very wrong for us to see you today in the National Prayer Breakfast, and then when we are talking about hate speech, you are the one who is being taken to court. It would be wrong. It is not right. Because as a country, we have to understand and know that we stand well above any political formations today. We stand well above any political leaders today. The political leaders whom we have today are not the ones we had yesterday. You know, for example, in 1995, Uhuru Kenyatta was not a serious Kenyan politician. We had other politicians who were there. Today he is there. So why then would we want to fight and talk badly and ill against the other people, other ethnic groups, or any other supporters of any other party? I think that is one of the things that we need to reflect as we do our prayer breakfast today. There is the issue of the political leaders also being able to do their campaigns in a peaceful way and across the country. I would say probably we have also come of age, because I have seen generally, by and large, political leaders have been able to go to any sections of this country and campaign. When I saw Raila Odinga going to Nyeri for a burial of our late governor, I saw people embracing him, clapping for him, and they were very warm about his presence there. And he was able to pick out on his friends in Nyeri, and people were happy about it. And I thought that really is a very positive thing. The other day, Uhuru Kenyatta went to Kisumu. He was received very well. People, were happy, no shouting matches, and people welcomed him and told him, please, President, come again another day. So that is a positive thing, and I think we are growing as a nation. And what we need to see as we move now from here to August is that politicians need to desist, especially from inciting. Because when you see people shouting their leaders down, a lot of times it is a pre-planned arrangement. It is really natural that people just shout down their leaders, because generally Kenyans do respect their leaders. And that is why when you see even let's say like when Raila Odinga had a problem at home when he lost his son, you saw all of us as a nation, we came together and we really condoled him, because we all love our leaders despite who they are. Yeah. And if you want to know that we love our leaders, when President Moi, former President Moi, when he left power, one of the things that everyone was doing is begging for his blood and saying, no, we are going to prosecute him. But after he left, anyone trying to touch Mzee Moi would face the wrath of Kenyans. Because generally, people love Kenyans, love their leaders, and whatever their leaders at times do. And again, this is where we also have problems. Because you see, like, the issues of integrity today are covered across the newspapers. I think is a heading in, I think, title in all our headlines dailies today. Now, when we talk about issues of integrity, we are all joined together condemning issues of integrity, lack of integrity in the public service. But wait until the moment now you pick on one and you want to push them to the end because of what they have done. Again, you see people rising against you and say, oh, this is our person. So again, this is an issue that we need to look at as a nation, because we normally say that, yes, we want the truth and we want the right things, but more often than not, we are not ready to face the truth. We are not ready to accept the truth. Because if the truth is that someone has done something wrong against the people of Kenya, for example, having the issue of corruption, which takes away public funds from the public use into personal and private use, if you do that, really, that is a very big wrongdoing to Kenyans.
Right.
And you need to be punished for that.
Absolutely. And focusing on what you've just mentioned, and you highlighted, and it's rightly so, having Uhuru, go to an area which possibly previously would have seemed volatile or hostile to him. And the same thing with Raila going to Nyeri and people. Do you think that possibly there is a shift in how Kenyans are viewing their leaders? And possibly when we go back to the doldrums of fighting one another, it is mainly a political stage that is set up that takes us there. Because when you look at the electorate, they seem quite civil, as it was, to their leaders.
It's true. Kenyans are changing. And if you want to know Kenyans are changing, look at even the way they conducted the nomination process. They do not seem to just go with you because you have a big name. They go with you because they think they can relate to you. And the leaders who will end up representing Kenyans in future will actually be leaders who relate directly to them, and in a way that Kenyans can feel comfortable and feel well represented. Okay, unfortunately, our top leadership in the political parties may not have appreciated that as much, because then they look and they want to look at people who are more loyal to them and people whom they can depend on in terms of propagating their ideals and their ideas to the populace. But Kenyans are not looking at that. And what will happen as we move forward is that Kenyans will kind of continue to dictate more on how the leaders must relate to them. And if you don't relate to them in such ways, then they will do away with you. And so what will happen then is that political leaders will start also asking themselves, am I doing the right things to these people? They may want to stay very close to their citizens or their voters as we move forward, so that then they don't face the punishment that others have faced this time around. In fact, some of the political leaders who may have escaped this is probably because of a bit of protection from their political figures at the top. But should the political figures at the top allow Kenyans to really follow their desire, then you will see a very different scenario in Kenya. And that would be the beginning of political leaders being more and more accountable to Kenyans. And I believe it's a positive thing, it's a good thing, because if we continue with this trend now, what will happen is that we'll start to come out of the ethnic kind of politics that we've been doing.
Right.
You will be able to penetrate in an area where you are not, is not your stronghold in terms of ethnic origin, and be able to propagate your own ideals, and people will accept you and vote for you based on that. I think we are getting there, though so slowly, but eventually we'll end up there.
All right. Now, looking at the National Prayer Breakfast today and the fact that today on the headlines, I mean, it's almost a coincidence, and I don't know if it's a good one, that we have the National Prayer Breakfast Day on one hand. On the other hand, we have a list that has been given to IEBC of people, according to those particular civil society groups, feel should not be on the ballot paper for integrity issues. But again, reflecting on Kenyans. You mentioned earlier that we are a religious nation, and rightly so. But the question here being whether we really uphold those values that we talk about in our religious settings.
We are not very good at that, I can say. We do poorly in terms of upholding values. And again, we see people getting into issues of corruption and getting resources to enhance their own financial muscles.
And selfish.
Yeah, so it means that we are not doing very well as a country. I'm happy about that list. And I think the civil society that is doing this, number one, they need to do it earlier, not just when it is about to election time. Because again, when you bring such a list at this time now, when the nominations have already been done, and that's why I also feel bad that even the political parties did not vet the candidates who applied. Because once you have nominated a candidate to go to parliament or to be a governor, to be a president, then and then you want to delist them 70 days to the general election. At that time, the political temperatures are very high.
Very high.
The chances that you are going to achieve anything with this then would go quite low. But if this was done, let's say like 2 years ago, and we move to court to ensure that we have the court actually declaring some of the people unfit to hold public office, then we would have dealt with this issue a little bit much earlier. Again, when I also look at their list, I think it's also a bit sensational because it tends to look first at the people who are in parliament or who are in positions today. It also tends to look at those people with bigger names. There are so many other people really who are not fit to hold public office, but they are not they are not in leadership today. Some of them have just been nominated, you know. Others were seeking nominations. And for sure, like I know some who actually have been prosecuted because of criminal offenses and actually in the past have been jailed. Others have even been fined based on abuse of public office. And yet they were still contesting for positions. And they are known. They are there, they are known. Even in this city, they are known. And you see, I am not even seeing some of them in this list.
Correct.
You get? So it means that these guys also need to be a little bit more serious about this work. They don't need to do it like the way politicians do it. Because again, if you're a civil society, you need to be different. You don't bring this list at this time. You should have brought it a little bit earlier. So that then we are listing. We know these are the people who are in public office and we are going to go to court and have them declared and fit to hold public office. But it's true, we know most of these politicians have abused their offices in the past.
But of course the challenge now also comes in between the fact that there is what is perceived to be what they have done and the reality as per the law.
Yeah.
Of course, there are questions raised, and I mean, on the headlines today, we have the nation asking, will Waiguru get away with it? But, of course, the question, get away with what? Legally speaking.
Yeah.
There is the perception, but there is the reality. Now, that challenge and how to balance it.
Indeed. The issue of the law is different in terms of how it tackles these issues. And I would want to say that we have Chapter 6 of the Constitution. But I also want to tell you that what happened when these laws were being made, the politicians ensured that yes, they have made a very good law, but they also made an escape route in it. For example, we made the law on issues of integrity, but then we also said that you can contest for any public seat if you have not been prosecuted of any criminal or public office abuse. If you have not been sentenced or found guilty, then you can continue to contest for a public office. Now, you see, that is wrong, because it then means that if you have not exhausted all the avenues, like even appeals, going all the way to even Supreme Court, if you have not exhausted all those avenues, then you are still allowed to contest. Now, tell me, how long does it take in Kenya to exhaust all the avenues? It can take as many years as 10 years. It can take as many years as 5 years. So what does that then mean? Someone who is unfit to hold public office will continue holding that public office even when we know very well that they are not fit to hold the public office. Again, who do the investigations? Yeah, and I can tell you, people who are corrupt are not necessarily only those who are in government. And again, they are not assisted just because they're in government. The political elite and the corrupt elite, I would want to say, they belong to one tribe. They do it together, and they know how they do it. And then they shout so much about each other, but again, they protect one another when it comes to prosecution and such kind of cases. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of horse trading at the background, what we normally don't see. Mm-hmm. At times, a lot of political leaders push each other so much on graft issues in the public, mm-hmm. so that they can have some backdoor meetings, mm-hmm. to horse trade now. Yeah?
Okay.
You know?
All right, let me pause you a little bit there because we want to cross over to Safari Park where we have our reporter Patrick Amimo, who's been following up on the National Prayer Breakfast and bringing us details of the preparations, which we're expecting the president to be in attendance and also to give a speech later on. But for now, Patrick Amimo, what do we have as developments right there? Possibly those who've arrived, and who do we have that you can talk to, Patrick?
Thank you, Michael. We are at Safari Park for the National Prayer Breakfast, where, as indicated, the guests are still streaming in. The president is here to arrive. Will be at least who is expected at this particular function. But as indicated, this is the 15th year that we are hosting the National Prayer Breakfast. It's now been a culture that has been entrenched. This particular prayer session is always organized by the Kenyan Parliament. And just joining me is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Joyce Laboso. Mheshimiwa, looking at it, the importance of the National Prayer Breakfast. Why did Parliament find it very appropriate to have such a day?
Thank you very much. I think if you look at it, as you have said, for the last 15 years, Parliament has found it necessary. Parliament being the place that the representatives of Kenya are located, or at least, so it is very much appropriate for them to organize such a function, because then you get representation from across the country, and I'm sure you have seen people are streaming in. I think we are going to have over 2,000 guests today from across Kenya, across some parts of Africa, and even internationally out of Africa. We have always having guests from the US and from other countries, from the UK. And I think for us, really, it is just that one day that you sit back and bring the country together with one aim: to pray together, to thank God together for all the things that He has done to us, and really just to humble ourselves before Him, despite all our positions and despite all the things that we may be doing. You know, it is in order for us to just take a day off and to say, thank you, Lord, for all that you have done for us. And especially for me this year, I think it's extremely significant. We are just about 2.5 months away from the general elections. No better time than before we start elections, before everybody goes and gives their nomination papers from tomorrow. I mean, from this weekend. It is an excellent opportunity to pray together and to ask God even to give us a peaceful election.
In fact, looking at it, we saw last year the theme was trust. Trust was the main theme last year.
Yes.
At that time, we were witnessing there was at least a crisis. I mean, the opposition was demanding that IEBC should leave office, then led by Isaac Hassan. And they said the commission was facing credibility issues. And we saw, the IEBC later on, as Isaac Hassan and his team later left, and we have a new IEBC team. Do you think as we head towards the election, there's now trust and confidence in the new IEBC team that has been put in place?
Okay, I would hope so, because the message then was that we could not trust the team that was being led by Isaac at the time. Now we have a new team. So we must start by having confidence in them, because really these are Kenyans, and we are not going to remove people from heaven. You know, it is us, the normal, ordinary you and me, who are going to be chosen at the end of the day. So Chipukati's team, really, we need to show them the confidence that we have and allow them to be able to carry out these elections for us. Kenyans at the end of the day are going to make the decision. So for me, I would really urge all politicians, myself included, that give this team the opportunity to carry out for us a credible election. That's all Kenyans want. Free, fair, transparent elections.
In fact, looking at it as we head towards the election, and on Sunday, it's an official start of the campaign in the country. As a politician, how do you intend to carry this your electioneering campaign? Maybe your message to our fellow politicians out there, and then, because given that it looks to be like a high stake political game.
Extremely high stake. I'm sure all the time, you know, that our Kenyan elections have really become high stake in the sense that you find that, you know, the competition is so stiff that people sometimes take it as a matter of life and death. A lot of us have just come out from a very bruising, party nominations. And you know, there are people who are hurting out there. There are people who have really, felt that justice was not done and, during the party nominations. So for me, really, this morning, during this prayer breakfast, mistakes may have been done. But on the whole, my message is, let us, forge ahead. Kenya is bigger than all of us. At the end of the day, we want the best for everybody. So my fellow politicians is, let's carry out these elections in a peaceful manner. You don't have to kill your opponent so that you get to the seat, because, so just do what needs to be done. You have going to sign a code of conduct. Abide by that code of conduct. No violence, no abuses, just sell yourself and your policies. And Kenyans will decide whether they are going to elect you or not. That is really my message for my fellow Kenyans. And for me, myself, of course, as you are aware, I'm going for governor for Bomet County. And I want to really, this morning, wish the people of Bomet a very prayerful morning and to really tell them that I am the change that they have been looking for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker Joyce Laboso, who is now also eager to go out there and try at least to be the governor for Bomet. She's if she will be elected, then she will be among the first Kenyan governor female governor to get that position. Gitonga, as it were, these are the prayers are still, we are still awaiting the arrival of the head of state, Uhuru Kenyatta. But something interesting in the program is that the keynote address will be given by Governor David Beasley, who is the Director General of the UN World Food Program. I think these will be coming in handy, given that the country, we are currently facing a food crisis. We saw last week the government come up with at least to subsidize maize for 2 kg bag to cost 90 shillings. But strange enough, we saw the maize flour disappear from the shelves in the supermarket. So I think the WFP boss will be giving us some of the insights on maybe how we can ensure that the country is food secure, as in fact besides maybe electioneering and politicking, as we seek the political office, and also the national prayers. Because apart from the spiritual nourishment, we also need to get that other physical nourishment, which means that is food. Gitonga.
Thank you very much, Patrick Amimo. And possibly, Patrick, before we let you go, who are the leaders that we have there? We do know that it's meant to be an all-inclusive prayer breakfast with both government and opposition leaders also in attendance, and possibly just giving us a feel of who we have present.
Thank you, Gitonga. We have several leaders here. We have the chairperson of the Anti-Corruption Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. The retired Archbishop Eliud Wabukala is here. We have the NCCK boss Peter Karanja. We also have members. We have the whip, ODM whip here, Jacobo Mediwo. We have other speakers. We're expecting the Speaker of the Senate, Ekwe Ethuro, to grace this occasion. because these are a parliamentary affair, as it were. Governors have been invited to grace this occasion. The outgoing chairperson of the Council of Governors, Peter Munya, will be among the people who are listed to read a verse. We also expect the Chief Justice, David Maraga, to come here, and also he will be reading a verse this time round, but not delivering a judgment or a ruling in court. So these are invited guests. We also have members from the diplomatic corps. We have the clergy. We have other members of parliament. So it is business, the members from the business community. So it is a whole menu. But maybe later on, as it progresses, maybe I'll get one or two persons. Probably if I could be lucky to get maybe Jacomi Dio to shed more light on what we expect on this particular National Prayer Breakfast Day. Gitonga?
Maybe just to run through the program that we're expecting. We do know that sometimes it's filled with humorous events. I remember last year when we had the parliamentary choir come out to sing, led by Ferdinand Waitito. I don't know if we're expecting the parliamentary choir, to be singing today, and possibly other leaders that may be expected to be participating in the event today.
Yes, the parliamentary choir is one of those teams that are allowed to come and participate here, because, as I said, this is a parliamentary affair. It is their day. They are organizing national. It is the day to pray, and maybe just forget their political differences and try to get closer to God through song and also praise and worship. So we expect also the parliamentarians, the choir members, to come here. Earlier on, I interviewed Chris Wamalo. Chris Wamalo is a member of the parliamentary choir, and they pelt out a very, very fantastic song. So we expect them to also to come on the stage, and they will entertain Kenyans as the program progresses. So it is a day that is full of events, as it were. So various people are still streaming in, and we'll be getting to know really what happens as the day just goes by. Gitonga. Hello, Gitonga, Mike Gitonga.
Ahead.
Hello, now just maybe joining me is I'm also the chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. With me, just joining me on the set now, just to share one or two ideas about it. Just welcome, Madam Serem. Just looking
Thank
at it. This is a National Prayer Breakfast. It is the 15th year that we are hosting this particular event. What is your take on this very, very monumentous occasion?
I think the crucial thing about any nation is we have to recognize the very ultimate authority that guides the activities of every nation. And when we all come together as a nation, as a one people, we remove any boundaries. We are not here as parties. We are here as Kenyans, and we want to seek our God. This is something I personally really appreciate. And I wish we could do this, the entire nation, not just in this one forum. And for me, it's not just one day. I think we should be seeking for God every day.
Yes, just looking at it, the country is just heading towards the election, and we see people. What will be your advice out there to Kenyans generally, and maybe other people as we get into the electioneering period?
Yeah, I think I want to say we are privileged to be given a nation like Kenya. We are here not by accident. We are here by divine, and it's an allocation by God Himself. If we could recognize that and know that we are blessed to have a nation, let's maintain it. It takes my responsibility to ensure that we are all safe and we act responsibly. And that starts from myself, not from somebody else. So we can maintain that, and I want to pray that we all honor God and we respect His aspirations, which is to maintain peace and order as we become our brother's keepers.
Yes, thank you. That has been the chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, Sarah Serem, who's just shared a few insights with us here on this particular National Prayer Prayer Breakfast. As we await the arrival of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, she's just told us of the need to maintain peace and also be a prayerful nation. And just also joining me here is the chairperson of the Kenya Medics, KMPDU, Mr. Dr. Oluga. Just welcome for this particular show and the National Prayer Breakfast.
Thank you.
Just maybe to try to tease your mind. Why do you think it's very important to have a National Prayer Day?
I think our country's national anthem and values are anchored on faiths and beliefs. So it's very important also that we have a day that just brings all of us together to look at the issues, some of which we all can be seeking, divine intervention, So I think it's important to have a national prayer day because any country's leadership, the character, the values of the leaders are usually shaped by what they believe in. So, and I think a national prayer day that brings all the faiths together is very important. Yeah.
There have been calls that instead of maybe holding it maybe in Nairobi or maybe in high-end hotels, maybe the theme should be spread out there to the public so that we have more Kenyans participating in it. What's your take on this?
Definitely so. I think, well, I agree that the manner in which we are holding the National Prayer Day is more, it looks as if maybe it excludes other people. Because maybe only a few leaders, parliamentarians are invited. But I think that doesn't make it lesser. I think what we need to do is to look at how then do we also cascade this to involve all Kenyans. Yeah, because a National Prayer Day is simply that, a National Prayer Day. Yeah, I don't think it's a leaders' prayer day, it's a national prayer day. So that is actually valid in terms of how can it be more inclusive for everyone across the country. And yeah, there should always be a diverse venue anywhere, Yeah.
Looking at it, and maybe before I let you go, this is something that, during the 100-day strike, doctor strike, I saw you had issues with the county government and the governors, and they had refused to pay you for the 100 days you were on strike. But I saw early this week, when Governor Peter Munya was handing over to his successor, Josephat Nanauko, he did say that now doctors will be paid for the 100 days they were on strike and other emoluments as you expected. What is your comment on this gesture?
Of course, for us, we are grateful that finally we are getting to do the right thing. I think doctors deserved their pay, and it's taken too long. Partly why we are here as the Doctors Union on the National Prayer Day, I think there's some element of reconciliation that is needed after the 100 days of the doctor strike. There was a lot of high temperatures, people got mad, and I think it's important that the country reconciles back with the doctors, and also it's important that especially the government reconciles with the doctors, because the doctors are actually the government. They are part of the. In fact, I do say most of the time, governments change. Doctors will always be here. So, it's very important that we reconcile, and I think part of this national prayer is to make sure that we are trying to bridge that gap. So we are grateful that all of these things are going to happen. It's still not yet happened, by the way, but we expect that by the end of this month, I think there should be, we want to say that all counties pay up your doctors, the national government, pay up your doctors. It doesn't make sense that we always keep bickering and fighting over things that budgets have been passed over, And even the issues of the CBA, we are having deadlines again that we extended coming up and ending soon. So it's just in order that the country moves forward. We also as doctors, we want to do something else. We want to start looking at issues of policy, issues of hospitals and how wananchi can get the best services. So it is very, for us, I think it's gratitude, but also to note that sometimes we don't have to take that long to appreciate, to do the right thing. There are a number of aspects of the return to work formula that we will still be monitoring and that we expect that it will be implemented. Yeah, and we want to also be grateful to Kenyans who have given us a lot of support and also put the leaders accountable and given them the necessary pressure to make sure that they are paying doctors what is deserved to them. And yes, doctors have not yet been paid, but because the counties all have decided to do so, we expect that by 31st of May, no doctor will have his money still owed by government.
But maybe just something, the CBA has not been signed by the counties, because that's what the outgoing chairperson said. How long do you intend for the CBA to be signed so that we have a smooth process?
So it's not for us, actually. The CBA should have been signed before the strike was over, but there seems to be some confusion on the part of government. They aren't really certain the signing mandate, and there are a number of people who keep coming in and wanting to be involved. So we have discussed the CBA more than 7 times, actually, with the different groups of people, because we as a union have a lot of goodwill. So we want as much buy-in as possible, but also it's sort of wasting time. It's wasting the country's time, it's wasting patients' time, because the public is very expectant, the doctors are very expectant. So one of the things that the deadline is coming up again on 28th of May. We hope that by then we shall have found a solution and signed it, because I don't think that there will be any more extension. Not from the union, there will be 0 extensions anymore.
So that is the chairperson of KPMDU, the Secretary General of KPMDU, Dr. Oluga. Just trying to tell us, saying that his union is here just to foster reconciliation. We know just we just coming out from the doctor strike, who are demanding at least better terms of service, training, and other demands. And yet, okay, the Council of Governors has said that doctors will be paid their salaries, but they are eager to see that the CBA is signed ahead of before month end. So, Michael Gitonga, this is the prayer breakfast is ongoing, and as it were, also they'll put a lot of emphasis on the national anthem, our national anthem, which is more or less like a prayer. It is our anthem was derived from the Pokomo, who are inhabitants of Tana River County. So it was a Pokomo song, but now it had been turned into Swahili and also later translated into English. But it's a prayer sort of, though I'm told that it was a lullaby for a child, but it had very, very good message. Gitonga.
All right, thank you very much, Patrick Amimo, who's coming to us live from Safari Park and giving us just a taste of what we should expect from the prayer breakfast and talking to several leaders. He has already had a word with Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Madam Joyce Laboso. We have had there from the SRC Chair, Sarah Serem, amongst others. And of course, we'll be going back there. And the guests are still streaming in. We are expecting the President to also be part of the occasion as one of the main guests. And of course, possibly will be giving a speech as we continue to bring to you this live from Safari Park. And of course, right here in studio, we're also looking at the history, the genesis of the National Prayer Breakfast Day with John Kagushia, who is a governance expert, also a member of the National Prayer Breakfast Day. And looking at the history of it, it was started in 1953 in the US, and it was brought in, first of all, to look at the elite coming together to look at national issues and also pray about them. But for now, we want to take a short break. And those of us on KTN Home are going to be changing now for Life and Style. The rest of us right here on KTN News will continue with Morning Express. But we are taking a short break and we'll come back. Do stay with us right here on KTN News. For those of us on KTN Home, goodbye and have yourselves a wonderful day. Life and Style is just about to begin.